Hey fellow backyard boyers, Nick here. Today I'm going to be building a bow rack. Now, when I first got started making self-bows, I used to have a very simple rack that consisted of a wooden board with pegs in it. These pegs were spaced just a couple inches apart, and I could just hang bows on it like this. It worked really well for longbows, or bows without any reflex or recurves or anything, because they don't take a lot of space when hung like this. Now, once I got a lot of bows, a lot of recurves, and started making bows with a lot of reflex or with heavy recurves, this tends to take up a lot more space when hung that way, and you can't fit as many bows on the same rack. So that's why I switched to the 2-peg, which holds the bows like this. But now that I've got some extra wall space, I'm going to be building a simple rack. What it will do is actually hold the bows this way, so that you can have as many bows as you want. They're not going to take up any more space on the rack, but you can have larger bows like this. You could even put compound bows on a rack like this, and even if they're sticking out away from the wall, you still be able to fit a lot of bows into a smaller space. So to start, I've got this board here, or this is a 2x2. You could also use a 2x4, but I like the look of the 2x2. Plus our finished hooks aren't going to be much wider than, or are only going to be a little more narrow than this. So it'll look nice in the end. So this is 5 feet long, simply because I have a 5-foot section of wall that I'd like to cover with bows. You can make this as short or as long as you want. The hooks that we're making will end up being 3 inches long, so I'm going to be making 20 hooks for this 5-foot board. You just make your adjustments accordingly, and that's if you want them side by side. You can give them extra space if you want, and that'll cut down on the number of hooks you can make. But I'm going for maximum capacity here, so I'm going to put 20 bows on this 5-foot board. So the hooks are going to be made of PVC pipe. This is 1/2 inch PVC pipe, and I've cut this to 4 inches long. I've also gone ahead and marked the center and then 1 inch from the end. So now we're going to go and shape the hook. The first thing we need to do is heat and then flatten this pipe completely flat. So I've got it on an arrow shaft, a broken arrow shaft, and I'm just going to heat this up until it's pliable enough to flatten. Then I'm going to flatten it under this board. You don't need to use clamps. You could just place this on the floor and step on it until it cools. But there we go. Alright, I'll just take that, place it under the board. Put my clamps down. Alright. There we go. So now you want to heat in between the center and your 1 inch mark here. Just heat up right there in between the two. And you want to heat up approximately a 1 inch section. So here we go. Okay, now you can see that it's started to puff out. Now you take it and you make a shape like this. You want approximately 2 right angles. So here it is. Now you just want to hold this like this until it cools. I'm going to go dunk it in some water so it holds its shape. You also want to make sure that it lines up straight through here, because you're actually going to be nailing this to our board, and this is what's going to hold the bow up. So here we go. Alright, now that it's cool, I'm going to go ahead and drill 2 holes in this PVC pipe here. I have it clamped down so it's not going anywhere. And you want to drill your holes about the same size as the nails you plan on using. So here we go. And there we go. Alright, so now that the hook is done, I've gone ahead and rounded off the ends just to make it look a little nicer, and also it's not going to catch on anything. So what you want to do is take your board that you're going to be putting these on and mark out where you're going to put your hooks. So I'm going to be stacking them pretty close together. So I've marked 3 inches. You can see that each hook, this hook takes up about 3 inches of space on this board. And I'm going to be nailing them right next to each other. So another hook is going to sit right here. Now you can space this out if you want. You can actually make this closer and only take up 2 inches of space. You'd be able to fit more bows on there, but it can be tricky to get the string off, on and off. You can do it that way, but I like to give myself at least 1 inch of space in between each hook. By having all hooks going in the same direction, we don't have to have some hooks back to back. You know, it's also a lot easier to install the hooks the first time. I'm using nails. For a little more security, you can use screws, but keep in mind that if you're putting them in as close together as I am, it can be hard to get your nails out, your screws out if you want to get the screws out. So I'm going to go ahead, put these on the board. I'm going to nail these all in, and then we'll start working on actually mounting this on a wall. So here we go. Alright, I've gone ahead and nailed all of the hooks onto the 2x2. Here's the finished wrap. Now that this is done, all we need to do is mount it onto the wall. Now, there are lots of different ways to do this. I'm actually just going to be directly fastening this to the wall. Now this is a drywall. Underneath here there are supports or studs every 16 inches. So in order to put this up, we need this to be in the same place where the studs will be. So I've gone ahead and I've marked where the studs are in this wall. And what I've done is also gone ahead and marked on this board where I want the studs to line up. So I want the rack on the wall like this. So if this is where one of the studs are, I want to make a marking on the board right here, and also I want to make a marking here and down there. Once I've made these markings, I'm actually going to be adding these supports. Now, these are just 1x2s, little pieces of 1x2s. Each one of these is 4 inches long. I'm going to be attaching this directly to here, and then putting 2 screws, one at the top and one at the bottom, just to give some extra support. This is also going to bring the rack a little further out from the wall, because if you have it a little further out from the wall, you'll actually be able to hang strung bows from this without any issue. So here it is. I'm going to go ahead and actually screw these into the main board. I'll show you what that looks like. And here's the rack all finished up. I've gone ahead and put the supports on it. All that I have to do now is actually mount it onto the wall. So I'm going to go ahead and mount it into the wall. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. As far as putting this on your wall, the only real thing you need to keep in mind now is how tall or how high do you want this rack to be. I'll go ahead and put this bow on it. The different bows will actually sit at different levels depending on how long their strings are. Another thing too is that if you've got longer bows, then they need to be higher up so they clear the ground and anything, on the ground. I like to keep them a little elevated so that they're not brushing the ground or really close to the ground. I usually give myself the ability to put really long bows up to about 74 inches or so onto a rack like this. But most of my bows are a lot shorter now, so I might go a little lower. And if you have nothing but short bows, then you don't need to, make this rack as tall, or you can put something underneath it. It's really up to you. So I'm going to go ahead, put this on the wall, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. There it is. So there's the rack, all finished and installed. Well, the only thing left to do is fill it with bows. Alright, here's the finished bow rack with 20 bows on it. Like I was saying, you can put a compound bow up there. It's no problem. Just put it up there, and the bottom cam or bottom limb will be resting against the wall. If you wanted to, you could put a secondary board there or padding on that area, but it's not really pressing against the wall very hard, and it's not a big deal. Like I said, you can also put strung bows on this. There we go. And what's nice about this rack is even though I've got 20 bows and it's pretty well packed and they're all fairly close together, it's pretty easy to just grab the one you want and put it back without disturbing all the other bows. So, here it is. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.